Good morning, everybody, here at the Jetty IoT. Is Tom going to come and do a little intro? Don't see him. I'll just make a little intro for him. The Jetty IoT is up here on Barrancas in Pensacola, and he's kind enough to let us do our pre-sailing events in the conference room here at the Jetty IoT facility, which is a great networking place. And so today we're going to talk about a couple of foiling sailboats, and I'm going to give you the background on why we'd be even interested. I'm Tim Reichon. I'm the president of Sail Pensacola, and Sail Pensacola is a 501c3 that was organized about a year ago based on this little creature here that came to rest in our harbor, inspiring people to fly and inspiring people to fly on foils. And so this really describes an opportunity that we as a community saw coming, and we wanted to take advantage of that. We have this great, we've had this a long time, this great natural asset of the Pensacola Bay. Wind, water, sun, a year-round sailing climate, discovered and settled via the bay, Pensacola, and then used industrially for decades, and then really now not only industrially, but it's used for recreation as well. Sailors look at this and say, this is an incredible place to sail. We have all of the best assets to sail, and that's why American Magic came here to put their program, because it's a great foiling program. So Sail Pensacola looked at this and said, there seems to be an opportunity with the convergence of these things. We have these natural sailing assets. We now have the international recognition and endorsement of the Pensacola Bay by American Magic, giving us this international stamp of approval as a sailing venue. So what could we do with it? Could we just, are we going to just let it happen, or is there an opportunity for this community? And we believe there's an opportunity. So that's why Sail Pensacola was organized. And so we were set up as a 501c3 in February of last year. And our mission is, we don't have a store, we don't have a product, we are an orchestrator. We're a nonprofit orchestrator of this business ecosystem. We are here to make things happen and facilitate things that will advance our vision. And our vision is to make this place the North American Center for High-Performance Sailing Events, Engineering, Sail Engineering, and Technology Development related to high-performance sailing and marine technology. That's a 20-year goal. What would be the reason we would think we could pull that off? Well, it's because of this. This is really a revolution in watercraft generally and in sailing specifically, hydrofoils. This, in my mind, I think this probably describes the kind of revolutionary jump in boats and boat performance that you went from wood to fiberglass. And so that's the way I want to think about it. Well, let's see, where is this showing up? We've got them under every single boat, every single foiling apparatus. Windsurfing boards have them. We just have them under, well, there's a Birdyfish. We're going to talk about that boat. We have them under the Wasps. We have them under the B-foil, the ETFs. We've got them under American Magic's AC40s. We've got them on electric surfboards. We've got them up on these stand-up boards, the flight boards. And of course, now we have the foiling bicycle. So you can have your charged up battery, you hit the throttle, it powers you up on the foils, and then you take over pedaling. Hydrofoiling, and of course we have it on recreational boats. This particular recreational boat, people say, what about the draft? This boat has retractable foils. So you can start out on the sand, and when you move into deeper water, the foils lower and away you go. But that's not all. Now we see the hydrofoils on water taxis, from Candela, from Artemis. Really, there's no end in sight to where this is going to go. That describes a future for us here in Pensacola, because this technology of hydrofoiling got ahead of the US engineering, fabrication, and consumer market. And right now, it's here in Europe, and here in New Zealand and Australia. And what we want to do is take advantage of this gap. We're 5 to 7 years behind in the US. Sail Pensacola wants to take advantage of this gap and facilitate this technology and these products into the US market by bringing them through the Pensacola door. So why the Pensacola? Well, I'm here in Pensacola, we're here in Pensacola, that's where we would want to do it. And we, again, have the great natural assets, and we have American magic here as well. The Sailing Footprint Accelerator is Sail Pensacola's method for making that happen. That involves product presentation, like we're going to do today. That involves on-water demos. That involves an ambassador program, so that once we have the boats in the community, we have a professional ambassador to take prospective buyers and clients out on the boats and teach them how they would sail them. We want to have a sailing mall, so we have all of this foiling hardware, toys, boats, they're toys to us, right? All of it in one place. So if there's ever any place in the United States of America where you would want to go and walk around every gizmo that foils, why not here? And then a storefront, well, some brands might want to put a storefront in Pensacola, but in the mall, we can make it pop up and affordable for them. And then ultimately, we really have economic development aspirations at Sail Pensacola. We really want to talk to everybody that builds these gizmos about putting a manufacturing or fabrication footprint here and creating jobs in our community and causing the engineers to settle here and changing the supply lines so we can benefit for generations from this importation of technology. The Sailing Footprint Accelerator reached out to Hardy Peters at East Coast Sail and said, you know, we want to bring all these foiling boats to town sooner or later, and we want you to pick a date and bring in a couple of boats that are, in my mind, very exciting for the entry of new foiling sailors, and that's the Birdyfish and the Flo1. And Hardy Peters said, yes, when, and we agreed on this date, and here we are, rain or shine, pouring rain or howling hurricane, not that. Here he is, and today he's going to give a little product presentation here in the classroom, if you will, and then we'll go to the water and we'll do an on-water demo. So this is designed to be extremely informal. Hardy wants you to interrupt, ask questions. I plan to ask him questions. This is not a lecture. This is a discussion. So without further ado, I'll introduce Hardy Peters from East Coast Sail. Thanks for coming up, Hardy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hello, guys. My name is Hardy Peters. A little bit about me and my company. I'm the owner of East Coast Sailboats. We are a net importer of boats from about 5 to 6 different countries around the world. We don't focus on boats that are traditional. We focus on modern boats that are, you know, cutting edge and developed boats that are modern in today's sailing world right now. Some of the boats that we do catamarans, we do monohulls, we do some boards here and there, but mainly it's the catamarans and the monohulls. But we found that there is a market for foiling boats as well too. And we tried a foiling program years ago, and I tried to figure out what is the right boat for my clientele. And my clientele at the time was your average sailor. And so we settled on a NACRA 15. Turns out it probably wasn't the right boat for a beginner foiler to go out on. And so we kind of shelved the program for a while and then came back a couple years ago, and I was watching the aerodynamics, and I was watching the Flo1, watching the Birdyfish, and then we finally partnered up with them and brought them in for our company. And they are a easy learn to foil type boat. So we're going to start off, we have 2 boats. One is the Flo1 from Aerodynamics, and the other one is going to be the Birdyfish. So I'm going to start off with the Flo1, because if not, it gets very confusing for me. So Flo1 is out of Holland. DNA came out of, the owners came out of competitive sailing. One was actually a part of the IMACA development and they're learning to putting that whole foiling program together for the IMACA boats and everything. And that kind of led into the company that powers the boat, which is made by, sorry, I'm getting a little confused here. It's made, Flo1 came out and they developed the boat through developing other platforms such as a solar-powered boat. They started doing drones for the power industry so they can go out and check on wind farms out in the North Atlantic and everything like that. Go ahead, next slide please. So the whole point of the Flo1 was to develop a boat that was an easy learn to foil type boat, but still had the performance to excite people and keep them sailing. They started this after the company had developed its its e-powered boats, which is the drones for the power industry, stuff like that. And the whole company started based on the fact that a company called Q Concepts developed the foil side of the business. And with the foil side of the business came the spin-off, which was aerodynamics. And aerodynamics, their whole goal is to create a sustainable platform for people to move to transport in using wind power or solar power. That's kind of the whole concept of the company. Go ahead, next slide, please. So the Flo1 was developed. It's a great little boat. It's 13 feet long, and it is, 14 feet. Beam is about 5.5, somewhere around there. Draft is about 3 feet, and only weighs about 110 pounds. It says 75 kilos, but it's actually 110 pounds. Very easy. I slid it off the trailer today by myself, picked it up, put it down and everything like that. So it's a very easy boat to move around. It is a glass fiber epoxy with carbon reinforcements in certain areas, especially around where the foils are. And she is what I call a tripod foiler, but this one's a little bit different. She does have a dagger board or a centerboard to help with the pointing ability of the boats. Some of the IMACA boats, if you know the big ones, the ones that go across the ocean, have the big foils that come out, and they also have that canting keel. And what that does, it helps them point a lot better. So with the foils of this type of design, which come out like that, they're wave-piercing foils, and it'll have a centerboard for that pointing concept. But the nice thing about it is that these foils are self-regulating. And self-regulation means that the foils will come up, they're wave piercing, so as they come up, so there's less and less surface in the water, and so it'll actually self-regulate on its own height based on the weight that's on the boat at that point in time. So you won't be popping out, you won't be what they call porpoising out, which is when you have too much lift and you come out of the water. So it actually self-regulates based on the weight that's on the boat. Simple boat, 2-piece mast, 110 pounds, so you can car top it, and then you also can take that mast apart and be able to move it around really easy. The foils actually come out of the boat when you move it, and then, for example, if you want to keep it in a boat park or at a yacht club or something like that, the foils actually fold up. You will see that the profile of the boat is basically the widest part of the boat is not going to be the foils. It's going to be the actual deck of the boat. So the foils actually fold up, which is really nice. So it doesn't take up a lot of space, almost a little bit wider than a laser, which is really nice.
Is that a dagger or a center?
It's a centerboard. It's actually a carbon centerboard, yeah. So, makes it easy too when you're coming in. So if you have to come in against a dock, or like it says right there, on a coach boat or a rib or something like that, you just fold them up and you pull up next to it, which makes it really easy. And it is a single hand boat, which is really nice.
Can you control the foils from the cockpit yourself?
Yes. So, yep, that's a good point. So the way the boat works is that once you're in the water, you could sail this boat in displacement mode, which is really nice. And then also once you get out there, you pull your foils down. There's actually 2 lines. You fold them down, and then they lock off. The foils themselves, you could preset them to an angle. And I'll show you, there's these little 3D printed spacers. Each one's color coded depending on how much ride height you want. And you can preset that. So once, say for example, we set that, once you're out there, this boat has what we call dialer rake system. In other words, you can actually rake the rudder forwards and back probably about 1.5 inches. So that translates to quite a bit down below. Once that foil is about 3 feet underwater, or 3 feet underneath the boat, it actually rakes that rudder back and forth. So you can actually set, if you have light wind, you want to have more push to get up. If you have too much wind or a lot of wind, you want to do a little bit of less push on that rudder. So you're going to rake it back versus forward. And so what that'll do is forward versus back. So you can actually sit there, and as you're sailing, main sheet in one hand, you could actually rake your rudder to adjust your ride height, which is really easy. Other than that, typical sloop rig boat, or sorry, not sloop rig, but single main boat, has 2 sets of stays, has a Mylar sail, no reef points, but you can adjust the power of your sail through your boom vang, the settings on your stays, your short stays versus your long stays. And that way, say for example, you have a really windy day, like we possibly will have today, you can actually depower that boat a little bit and flatten out that sail to be able to have a little bit more control over it. It is a tall mast. It's 24 feet tall on a 13 or 14 foot boat. That's a pretty tall mast. All right, next slide. So on the Flo1, that is pretty much what we have. So the next boat is going to be your Birdyfish. The Birdyfish is a little bit bigger. It's actually a scow style boat, as you can see. It's set up for double handing, although we do single hand the boat in lighter winds. I think we've been out, I think it's blowing 12 to 15, we've been out single handed with a reef in the main. And it is fun. It's a very simple boat. The difference between this boat and the other boat is going to be that there is no centerboard or dagger board on this boat. They had originally installed one when the boat was developed, and they found out that it was not needed because the foils, the size of those foils, are enough to give that boat enough pointing ability to be able to go upwind and do that. They just found that the centerboard was creating more drag than it was doing any good. So the boat was developed from Birdyfish. It's a French company. They have been around since I think they started developing the boat in 2014, 2015, and then came out with their first prototype in 2018 and went on from there. They are set up in France and have been able to come out with I think almost 90 boats at this point, and started developing a class for the boats in France. So boat comes in 2 versions, which now the only difference between the versions is going to be the sails. The rigging, the hardware, everything is identical except for the sails. You'll have the Dacron with 2 reef points, which is kind of convenient. And then you'll have your race sails, which are going to be Mylar. You see that one does have a reef point in it, but the ones that I have do not have reef points in them. So that is a new addition, I think, that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. It's harder to reef Mylar just because of the crinkling of the sails. But anyway, next slide, please. So, as I said, they started a racing class in France. They have four events listed up there, and they have, I think, 5 or 6 boats that they're chartering for these events, plus owners who have had their boats. Like I said, there's 90 boats out there. There's actually 9 here in the U.S. 6 of them are sitting in my office, and then the other 3 are out in public. One's going to stay here in Pensacola, so that'll be nice. You guys will be able to see it out there. We have 3 races and then foiling week in Italy. Maybe you all should do a foiling week in Pensacola. That'd be great. All right, next slide, please. Right now, main distribution for these boats is going to be Europe. They just started off in New Zealand, Japan, and the Middle East. And then East Coast Sailboats would be the first dealer / distributor in the U.S. market here in the United States. Next slide, please. So one of the things about developing sailboats in the U.S. is that you have to establish that dealer network, and so we're the first step in that process of being able to develop that dealer network in the U.S. We're actually meeting tomorrow to see with both Birdyfish and also with Flo1 to see how we can expand that market here in the U.S. So, any questions, please? Yes, sir.
What's the price point?
Price point for the boats. So the Flo1 is going to be a little over $16,000 for the base boat, barring dollies and covers and that sort of stuff. It's about $16,000. The Birdyfish for the two different versions. The one version is $23,000 for the fun version, and then the race version is on the high side of $24,000. So very, very reasonably priced compared to some of the other foiling boats. And that, go ahead.
Well, you were saying that Birdyfish has a lot of similar components from one version to the other.
Correct.
And would there
Main difference
be a
being
way
the sales.
to convert from one to the other
Yep.
based on?
Yes, all it is a change of sales.
Sure. Okay.
All it is a change of sales.
'Cause I
And
could see people wanting to start out in the fun mode.
Right.
And then when you start having regattas and the like, well, I'm ready to have that nice sail and upscale my
Yeah.
race point.
in the past, and when they first started out, there was a bigger gap between the rigging of the fun version and the rigging of the race version. I think after a while, I think one of the French dealers got involved with it and did some really good stuff as far as re-rigging the boats and creating a similar rig that would be good for both sets of sails. In other words, you can optimize the type of sail that you're using based on this rigging and your adjustments. So they were able to do that, and so the rigging itself, or the hardware and the way the boat is rigged and everything they're all identical at this point.
Okay, I was gonna follow up on his question, I think you may have just answered. Basically, the boats and their rigging are identical. Only difference is the Mylar race sails versus the
Right. In the,
Dacron or whatever they are.
2024 and on, yes.
Okay, they're identical.
Correct. In the past, they were not.
Okay.
Yeah, so the great thing about these boats, so on the Flo1, we talked about how you can adjust the dial rake. In other words, it's somewhat weight-based, but also you can adjust your foils a little bit to be able, you can adjust the front ones by putting your ride height setting, and then when you're actually out in the water, you can actually dial a height a little bit while you're out there in case you need to adjust. You can also move your body around. On the Birdyfish, it's completely different. It's just all body weight. So it's a static adjustment and do that. So the boats are very similar. They're just slightly different in the way they sail based on the foil design. Go ahead.
Hardy, in Pensacola, we're under the influence of American Magic and the AC-75 and the AC-40s, and we see them when they're on attack or off on a reach, they lift a foil on the windward side.
Right.
Do you lift a foil on either of these boats when you're reaching?
Once you have the experience in the Flo1, you can do that. I am not sure on the Birdyfish. I would probably say not, in the simple fact that to do that, the setup would have to be a little bit different in the way it's rigged for the foil locking mechanism, versus the Flo1. And I'll show you this when we get there. It's basically, there's a block and tackle pulls it down, and then there's a release and another block and tackle that pulls it up. So you can literally, on the fly, while you're sailing, release the windward foil and then pull it up. So the answer is, on the Flo1, yes, but not. No. Nope, not yet. I'm still learning. I'm still learning, so they're great boats. Any other questions?
Is there an intention with the Birdyfish? Is there an intention with the Birdyfish for them to and I think it probably is, develop this as a class, the race boats as a class. I see you've got several regattas in Europe and that kind of stuff. Is that where they're going with this, like a Milges
Yep.
24 or whatever, and strict adherence to rules, not allowing modifications in the class?
Correct. Yes, the answer is yes. That is the whole goal, is for them to create that class. Once they've created that and they have the rules and and everything set up for it, they have started that process in Europe right now to create that class. Yes. Go ahead.
So I'm a novice at this kind of stuff, and I'm also someone who travels to Pensacola and back up to where we live in Tennessee. Do they have dedicated trailers?
No, you can use any trailer, really. All it is a small boat.
Okay.
It's the same process. So once it'll sit on a tripod trailer, or it's not a tripod trailer, but a bunked trailer, just a normal bunk trailer like you would put a 13-foot whaler on. And you can put either one of the two boats on there. You might have to adjust them a little bit, but yeah, you put it on. The Birdyfish requires a bow support, a flat bow support versus a roller, so that would be the only difference. So to answer your question, yes, they can use any trailer. So when you, I typically put my boats on dollies, and so with the boat on the trailer, all you're gonna do is you're gonna put the dolly up underneath the back of the boat, and you'll pull the boat off, lay it on the straps, pull the bow up, set it down, you're already on there. You're on the dolly. Or you can go ahead and rig it on the trailer, which I'm not a fan of that.
Will you demonstrate that today? Is that something that
I
you've
can
already
demonstrate
done?
it. I can demonstrate it after sailing when we put the boat apart. I can demonstrate how that works. Yes, the boats are already set up at the yacht club.
Well, I wanted to sort of understand, is this something that I could do in transport to and from Tennessee and here?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you get good at rigging the boat, it'll take you about 30 minutes to rig the boat. So you can actually, say you had the boat at the house up there, it's on the trailer, you bring it down here or bring it to a lake or wherever you're going to go sailing, you pop it off the trailer onto the dolly. Dolly comes apart in 5 pieces. So that's really, so just a dynamic dolly is all it is. And you'd rig the boat and go sailing, come back, de-rig the boat, pull the foils off, and then pick up the bow, slide it on the back of the trailer, pick up the back of the boat and slide it on. She's not very heavy. Neither one of the boats are really heavy. The nice thing about the Flo1 is that it's car toppable. So all you got to do is put it on top of the, laser trailer would work, very easy.
Thank you.
In the beginning, when you don't have a class and you want to race, you're going to want to go out on Wednesday night at the yacht club.
Right.
So what about the handicap?
They're coming.
Okay.
They're coming. We haven't developed handicaps yet. We're trying to develop that class up there in France right now. So as the more boats we can get out there, the more boats we can start doing some handicap racing, we can try to start figuring out what that handicap's going to be. So, yes, sir.
Hardy, it's been about 40 years since I bought a laser. Can you give us an example of non-foiling boats that would be in the same class as these boats? If somebody wanted to move from a typical similar boat, non-foiling to foiling, what would those boats be, and what's the delta and increase in price to get the foiling capability?
So using a laser as a good example for the Flo1, which I think would be a good comparison, would be somebody jumping from a laser or a Force 5. I hadn't heard that name in a long time, but that would go into say the Flo1, for example, would be a nice crossover point at that point. The concept of sailing is all the same. The biggest difference you're going to have is going to be learning how to manage that boat once she starts getting up on the foil. Once she starts coming up, as you're pulling in your main, your apparent wind starts changing and you need to change your direction. Learning those concepts is going to be what's going to make the biggest difference for you when you're sailing. But all the other sailing concepts do just the same thing. It's just learning what to do when you start lifting out of the water. When you go from displacement mode to foiling, it starts changing. Your whole direction starts changing. So you start pulling your main in, you start flattening it out, you start pointing down a little bit until you can find your groove on that boat, and you can start what we call doing the dance with the wind. And that's the fun part right there. That's the most exciting part about it. Your heart rate starts going up, and it gets really exciting as you start hearing that boat quiet down, and she comes out of the water and she starts shooting off. And that speed difference going from displacement to foiling it'll pin your ears back.
Price-wise, the difference between a new laser, I mean, probably an Ilka 7, I guess, and it's more expensive than Flo1?
No, a laser is right now about $10,000.
Okay,
Yeah, minus dollies and all that stuff.
okay.
And so you're looking at that price difference about $6,000 between the two. So that was the answer to your question before I got distracted.
And then that Birdyfish, I think you said, has a Jenniker.
It has a Jenniker, so it has 3 sails versus the Flo1 only have 1. Although Flo1 is coming out with a double-handed boat eventually. It'll have a jib and a Jenniker on it as well too. But the Birdyfish has an amazing amount of sail area. So it has 140 square feet of sail upwind, and then downwind, you pop that kite out, it goes up to about 215 square feet. So literally when that kite comes out, it wraps all the way around to about that far from the stern of the boat. That Jenniker is just massive, but it's cool. It's really, really, really fun. So when you start sailing, you have your jib tightened up. You're running your main, and your block on your main on that Birdyfish is going to be on the boom. So it's really nice. You don't have to have all that. You have all that open space underneath the boat without having to run into anything, except for maybe the boom bank. But other than that, it's all open, and you start coming up out of the water with the Birdyfish, and the same thing is, you're starting to manage, okay, where's my apparent wind coming from? I'm bringing in my sails, tightening everything up, and then you find your groove, and you're dancing the groove with those boats, which is fun. And then once, if you get to where you want to go, and you're all the way upwind, you want to do a little downwinding with it, and you pop that chute out, that Jenniker out, and it's a massive, like I said, it's a massive sail, and you get it out there, and the boat just literally just jumps and takes off. It is super fun.
It's like an asymmetric.
It's an asymmetric. It's a code 0, is what it is. Code 0, yeah. Yeah. So it's really, really flat, and it's really, really large. So, and what happens if you capsize? That's a good thing with these boats. So same concept. So between a laser and a 420 or a Melgis 15 or some other boat, and you capsize, what happens? Well, you loosen everything up, jump on the foil. The good thing is you got 2 foils. You got one you can stand on in the water, and then you climb up on the other one and just bring the boat back to the same way you did before. The nice thing is that if you stay on that foil, that foil that's up in the air, you literally step on the boat, and that's the nice thing. Cockpits are self-draining, which is nice. They'll have the Flo1 has got an open transom. The Birdyfish does not. It does have a closed transom, but it does have a drain in the middle of the boat, so she actually drains water really well too. So.
Talk about reefing the Birdyfish.
Yes.
A little bit. You said it has 2 reef points.
Has 2 reef points. Yes.
In the downsize performance one, but the race one you said had 1.
In the picture they had a reef point in it. The one I have does not have a reef point in it. So I think what's happening is that they're putting reef points in it, which is because at a certain point in the wind, you have to reef these boats. It'll get overpowered, and you want to make sure that you can keep that boat under control.
In looking at the picture of the Birdyfish, and I didn't really pay attention to it at that moment because I wasn't thinking about it. Where do you stow stuff? Where do you put that Jenniker?
The Jenniker is actually roller furling. Okay. So the boat has a roller furling jib. So if you do need to depower, you just furl it back up. Or if you're coming up to the beach, you just furl up. The Jenniker is not out of a chute. It's roller furling as well too. So you just got to furl it back up. And a lot of times you'll see in one of the pictures. Can we go back a couple slides? Keep going. Stop right there. One more back. All right. So you can see the Jeniker right here. They have it laying on the deck. So a lot of times sailors, especially cat sailors, will say, well, we don't want to have roller furling Jenikers on the boat because it's too much windage. Well, they've solved that one. You just drop it down to the deck, and then leave it down on the deck while you're sailing. Then as you're getting to a point where you're going up, when you're about to do your downwind, you can always raise it back up and do that. And you can see these two gentlemen right there on the boat. A tripod foiler is inherently stable, and so when you're foiling, I can tell you how many times we did this last summer with folks. When you're foiling, is that at first, when you're getting the boat up, you're hiking out, you're doing all this stuff, and as you get up and you're up on foils, that tripod is inherently stable. So you're literally sitting there. He might be hiking a little bit, but he might just be pulling on a jib. And so you're literally just sitting there, and that boat is just rolling along because she's inherently stable. Those foils will keep her stability up high, which is nice.
I didn't see it in any of the photos, but is there any place to store your personal belongings?
Yes. So to answer your question that I did not answer before, on the Birdyfish, yes, there's a whole, underneath the mast, there's a whole area there you can put a whole bunch of stuff. There's also a rope bag right there you can put stuff in as well too. On the Flo1, not as much, but there is an area up by the front of the mast that is not as busy in front of the foils that you could probably put a bag with a Velcro 3M sticker on it, or put a water bottle or something there to keep stuff. So, but yes, to answer your question, yes, there is. Other than that, the boats are, obviously both are foiling boats. They're both very similar. They both behave a little bit differently. The Flo1 is a little bit of a lower ride height, so chop becomes an issue after about 3 feet. And the Birdyfish, as you can see, her ride height is about 2 feet above the water, 18 inches to 2 feet. So chop is not that much of an issue. We have foiled both boats in those kind of conditions, and it's super fun. It's very wet, but super fun. So any other questions?
Go forward one more picture. All right, I noticed in both of these the dramatic amount of hiking that the lead boat and the pretty modest amount of hiking that the second boat is doing.
Well, he's kind of throwing a hang 10 out there as the picture. You guys taking a picture.
Okay. But I'm asking the question from the point of view of the age of the sailors, the amount of athleticism that's going to be required of the sailors to go out and even be reasonably competitive, not Olympic stuff, but just go out and, if there were a class, to be competitive in it. Is this what you're going to be doing?
Depends on how aggressively you want to sail, yes. Can I go out there? I'm 55 years old. Can I go out there and sail competitively? Yeah. Can I go out there and have fun? Yeah. I had a client this summer. I think he was 69 and a half or something like that. And he came out, we foiled for 2.5 hours. And we were both tired. We were both tired. But yeah, there is some, with any time you're racing or two boats are together, they're racing. But there's some athleticism that needs to, it's not a big boat. You don't just step on it and get off and go. But there is some athleticism to it, yes. So.
If you're single-handing the Birdyfish, what's the recommended weight?
So obviously with any boat, your weight has to be enough to flip the boat back over. I would probably say me flipping the boat back over, I've capsized 3 times, 2 times by myself because I made a mistake, and I got it over with no problem. So I'd say probably 170 to 180 pounds. So would be minimum weight.
Is there an upper limit on the Flo1 in terms of weight?
Yes, so 110 kilos, I think it is. 110 kilos is probably your upper limit. Weight-wise for the Birdyfish is you're looking at 495. So it's not pretty much anybody can get on that boat. I was on there with another gentleman. He was 225, and I'm on the high side of 250. And we did fine. We were foiling in 12 knots of wind. We were doing apparent wind 16 knots. So, yeah. Our fastest speed to date, or at least on our side, is 22.4, I think it is, 21.4, somewhere around there. So it was super fun. That was with the Jenniker up. We're going downwind, and it was exhilarating.
So again, I am a novice at this, and what I'm seeing here are both foils. All three foils are touching the water.
Correct.
But with significant wind, and to discuss or to add to his questions about athleticism and the like, having sailed catamarans in the past, how much of the sailing in significant wind is going to be pulling this boat one direction to get potentially out of the water with one foil? I mean,
Birdyfish will always be 3 foils in the water.
it will.
Yeah.
It will want to keep itself on 3 points.
On
as
3
opposed to
points.
2.
So if you oversheet this boat,
Yeah.
you'll have to hike. So it's somewhat, once you feel that you're having a hard time controlling the boat, you just need to let it out. And so you want, the goal is to keep it from, you don't want it to fight itself.
Okay.
So you'll be out there and you'll be pulling that sheet in, you'll be bearing off, the boat comes up out of the water and you're up, and then you're playing that main the whole time. You're just sitting there playing the main. So as you feel the boat slow down, you pull it in a little bit. As you feel it speed up, you'll let it out just a tad. Or if you feel that the boat's struggling or it's bound, you're gonna let that main out a little bit. And you can adjust the jib as well too a little bit, but mainly it's the main.
So the attitude of this one right here in the foreground is pretty much what you're describing for both up and down.
Correct. Yeah, the like I said earlier, the mechanism to bring the foil up and down in the boats that we have right now is not conducive to doing it quickly and easily when you're up on foils. Doesn't mean it can't eventually happen, but it's not at this point in time. The Flo1, yes, the Flo1, you can go ahead and sit there and cleat the main and then pull the windward foil up. So, other than that, any other questions? Did I miss anything?
Well, thanks, Hardy.
Yep, no problem.
Let's everybody give a round of applause for Hardy for coming up here with these boats.
Thank
And we're
you.
probably going to give you more applause when we get off those boats, because we're going to go over to PYC now and we're going to try them out. And Mother Nature's been good to us with some wind today.
Oh, yes, they have. Yes, it has.
So it will be fun. Everybody, we're going to be, I guess we're at the beach
We're at the beach, yes.
at PYC. And so come over and put on your gear.
I have some helmets and some PFDs if you didn't bring yours. So more than happy to
Are we
show
gonna
them.
change skippers on the water? Are you just gonna go out to the beach and come back to the beach, get somebody else? on the
Probably
water?
easiest to do it on the water, yeah. Probably easiest to do it on the water, especially for the Birdyfish, because it's nice and wide. Boat will have to come up behind the foil and then drop one off and pick another one up.
I know I'm taking my boat out.
Okay.
I've got a tri-tune, 28-foot tri-tune,
Okay.
and it's got a side door so we can bring it alongside or however you want to do it. But do you have other people with boats going out today?
I think that's it. Is that right, Tom? It's just you guys? Oh, three.
There's 3 boats? Okay, good.
Oh, just one boat, 3 guys, okay.
Well, we can take other people on the tri-tune. We can take 12,
Yeah.
13 people if you, I don't know how many people want to go out and then swap off.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is swap off. I mean, if the weather is, if it is dicey to do that, then we'll probably come back to the shallows and we can actually just change in the shallow. We don't have to go all the way back to the beach. What's the bottom like out here? Is it
Sandy.
Sandy? So we just go find the first shallow spot, bring the foils up and
It's
do
really
that.
gonna be right off the beach there. It's,
Right.
you know, up to knee deep, then waist deep, just about till you get to the channel.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that should be pretty easy. I'll walk you through that part. So
Thanks, Hardy.
Yep.
Let's go sail, no, let's go fly.
let's go fly.
Thanks, everybody.